Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. In this video, I want to talk about how the narcissist uses stonewalling and basically the silent treatment post-breakup and co-parenting situations. When I divorced my narcissist and I had to divorce him due to domestic violence, it just, I'm not going to get into the details of it. But, it was just healthier for me to go ahead on and remove myself out of that situation. And I'm going to leave that at that. And he didn't want the divorce, although he was doing everything to cause it. So, inevitably I had to do what I had to do. And I wanted to set a healthier example for my children. Of course, I had a daughter and 3 sons at the time. So, I divorced him. And he did everything that he could do post-divorce to make things as hard as possible on me, as far as the silent treatment and withdrawing himself. And we have a special needs child. At the time, he was a lot younger, because this was a little while ago now, who was diagnosed with autism and ADD, ADHD. So I had my hands full because he was young and he was in the thick of it. Actually, he's very much stabilized now. He's not even on medications anymore. But back then, oh my gosh, it was a lot more work. And I was working at the time a blue collar position, and I was in the process of getting family leave so that I could have that freedom to leave job at the drop of a dime without going through this rigorous attendance policy that they had set up, where it was quite easily to be escalated to a point of almost getting fired, basically, for leaving work and calling out. Okay. So, when the school was calling me for these emergencies, of course he would not answer his phone, even when I left voice messages, and I had to constantly leave my job. So, I ended up losing my job because of it, honestly. But luckily I had transitioned into another position anyway with another company, but it wasn't helpful there either, because I had to leave that job as well. Anywhere that I was working during business hours that he was at school, until we figured things out, I was constantly being called away. What ended up happening to help fix that situation is he got admitted to a school for kids with autism. So, of course, they had the resources to then not have to call me about everything, only to give me updates, not like, come pick up your child. We can't take care of it. We can't control this, type of situation. But either way, he knew, the narcissist, he knew how much work it was with both of us actually taking care of the kids. So he knew that it would have been extremely helpful and only right and fair that he continued. Our kids wasn't 1 when we divorced. I think our oldest at the time was 10, perhaps. We had a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 7-year-old, and an 18-month-old. That's what we had at the time of the divorce. So, he had, as long as I was with him, he was hands-on. But the second we weren't together, he hoovered back to his ex, and he basically tried to just start another life with her. I mean, she couldn't have children, so that didn't occur, but he remarried to his ex-girlfriend. And then, he didn't want to physically be involved, because narcissists tend to treat the children the way they feel for you. I'm going to repeat that. Narcissists tend to treat their children, once they're not with you, the way that they feel about you. So if that narcissist can't stand you, it's how they're going to treat the children. And that's what he was doing. He wasn't separating his rage for me, I guess, for me divorcing him finally and holding him accountable for his behaviors, his very dysfunctional, unhealthy, life-threatening behaviors. He was holding that against our children, and he knew that it would do several things. He knew that it would make life more hectic for me. He knew that it would hurt me to see them missing their father. And he just knew that it would just make everything more stressful for everyone. And even if it bothered him, that was okay. Because narcissists will spite their faces even more just to spite you a little bit. They don't care. Because it's just a one-track mind. I want to get back at this person. And not only that, now we were just old news. The family was broken up. We were divorced now. He's not, getting the supply that he wanted to have from that setup. So now it wasn't useful to him anymore. Now it was just an inconvenience, I guess. If you want to think about it, because the narcissist never really loved us. We were just what he needed, the supply that he needed. He wanted to have that family unit because his mother had divorced his father and all these things, psychologically. Then once the divorce happened here, now it was like back to that, 7-year-old child whose mother divorced his father, and he never actually got over that. He's not even talking to his own mother to this day. But that's a separate issue there. But yeah, he definitely used that silent treatment no matter what I text him. And I only called him and tried to communicate with him during emergencies. And even as the children got older, he doesn't even take calls directly from them. They're to the age now where he don't need to go through me. And he still won't even take the call. So there's nothing in his way. There's no beef. There's no argument. This is just something that he's choosing to do. It's something that he's choosing to do. So just, for all of you that may be preparing to leave a narcissist or fresh out of it, it's quite possible that narcissist will stonewall you, basically give you the silent treatment, basically break away and try to act like you never existed. Because they want you to suffer. Maybe he thought that I would come crawling back, but I can't see where he was trying to get back with me if he married someone else very quickly after our divorce, his ex that he was with before me. Very interesting there. See how, and I said this in other videos, and I thought about this when I was telling you guys this, where a Hoover, just because they haven't hoovered you back in a year, they can hoover you back. He hoovered this lady back after a decade, and it doesn't mean that they weren't in light communications throughout our marriage. And perhaps at the end, when it got really bad, he started picking it up and setting it up because he knew I was going out the door with him so that he can have his next supply lined up. But then we got the silent treatment, of course, because he never really loved us. We were just pawns on his chessboard that made him feel whole as long as we were with him in the way that he wanted us to be with him. And that was the supply, But yeah, it was very interesting. And then at the time I worked 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. at night. And I tried to call him so many times. I was like, it would be so helpful if you could pick the kids up from daycare and bring them home and put them to bed so that they don't have to wait for me at almost midnight getting to the daycare in the dead of winter and then coming home and then having to get up for school, getting their sleep interrupted because they're falling asleep on mats at the daycare. Then they got to wake up at midnight when I get there and come home and then try to fall back to sleep and then get up in 6 hours. It was just, I'm so glad that time of my life has passed and my children, they're older now. But, that was very rough. And then when my son with autism, when we were at the height and the thick of it, it got really, really bad. And I thank God that we've come so far since then, and it's night and day. But in the thick of it, oh my gosh, it was a family crisis at one point, and there was no message that he would return in regards to that. He literally told me, I'll talk to them when they're grown. But he's taken it for granted that they'll want to talk with him, you know. But I'm just making this video, guys, to let you know, and just giving you these examples on how a narcissist can use that silent treatment. You know, they'll wait. Oh, oh, the birthday's coming? Nope, they're not calling for birthdays, not calling for holidays on purpose. They don't care. They don't care. And they're getting more bang for their buck, because if they feel like the person on the other end does care. So they didn't get what they want, which was to continue the marriage. Oh, well, now everybody's going to feel it now. I'm not helping do anything. I'm not cooperating. Look, y'all don't even exist to me anymore, really. And it's really sad, because the kids don't deserve that, you know. I mean, luckily we have plenty of family videos they can look back on during the times where we were together, and they have plenty of pictures with their dad. But our youngest child was 18 months at the time, so, you know, he doesn't have a lot. And then several years later, 3 years after the divorce, or was it more like, actually this was more like 5 years after the divorce, he spent a few days with them. A situation occurred where I was like, hey, why don't you just, you know, we finally got back in touch with him. And I was like, why don't you guys go ahead and rekindle? I was happy to have them have that again, you know. And he was receptive. But after 2 days, come get these kids. I can't deal with this. They're disrespectful. I'm like, what? Come to find out, my daughter was like, oh, I miss my mom. But because she said that in front of him, he took that as a slight. Like, how dare you say that in front of me? You're with me now. You haven't seen me in years. You're not supposed to mention your mom at all. You know? And I could tell, like, just something was loose up there. Like, whatever happened from the divorce and the time I hadn't seen him in them 5 years, he was more far gone. And that's why they say narcissists get worse with time. They get worse with time. And I actually seen that. His mind was just, you know, like when he first seen me after all those years, he was like, look, I don't want to talk about this and that, meaning don't bring up the past, because they don't like to talk about the past. Don't even mention how I haven't seen the kids in 5 years, and I avoided all these emergency calls, and I was never there for you guys, and I didn't call on birthdays and holidays. I didn't help with back to school or Christmas, or don't mention none of that to me. That's what he's basically saying, and that's how they operate. Don't you dare shine a light in their face. But it was just a crazy situation, you know, and so he took the kids. He wanted me to put it in writing that he could even spend time with them. So I did it. And then 2 days later, he told me to come get them because of my daughter. And it was like 10:30 at night. I said, I'm not getting out of my bed at 10:30 at night to come get them. And then he says, well, I'm calling Child Protective Services. I said, but you're their father. They're going to laugh at you. Now, then we're in a major metropolitan area, and you're going to call a child. Well, who is this, sir? Oh, this is the dad. They're going to laugh at you and hang up. Their hands are full enough than to come pick up kids from their own father. It was no logic to it, you know. I said, look, I'll call you in the morning about this, but I'm not getting out of my bed right now. Then he calls me back 2 hours later after he calms down. We all just had a rough day. Don't worry about it. Don't come pick them up. I'm like, look, I know maybe you're not used to having 4 kids like you were before. You're getting back in the swing, but every parent has stressful moments. You guys got to talk about that and work it out. Don't just go to the end all be all every time you get frustrated with them over something, because I didn't know the situation at the time, you know. But then 2 days later, come get these kids. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to come get him. Because the last thing you want to do is force someone to do something they don't want to do. And this is what I said in my last video when I said stop trying to make the narcissist be a normal parent. Now, I've already been around him, and I could feel that nervous energy around him, and I can feel his mind. I'm like, I don't know what has happened. I don't know if he started doing drugs, but something is a little off with him. So if he's telling me to come get my kids, I'm going to come get my kids. Another mom would have been like, you ain't seen them in 5 years. You keeping them right now. I ain't coming nowhere. But for me, I'm thinking a little deeper into the situation. This is how children get abused and hurt. I told her to come get them. She ain't come, and people snap and they can do anything. I divorced this guy over domestic violence. So I wasn't going to force the issue of anything on him. They were there because he asked for them to be there. But now, 2 days later, he's saying it again. I said, you know what? I'm going to take this warning sign because I know that this person has had anger management problems. I know how this person has been to me. So I'm going to pick up my children this time. It wasn't late at night, but I was like, you know what? That's fine. I'll be there in an hour. But I tried really hard, before all of that even jumped off. I treated him in the way that I had wanted him to treat me in all those years. When he asked, to see the kids and he took them, and I was like, okay, maybe you could just have them for the month of August, for summer break. Just go ahead and keep them. I dropped them off, man. I went to BJ's. That's our little superstore where you can buy things in bulk. I had paper towels, toilet paper, laundry detergent. I dropped off a couple $100 worth of groceries to him. Like, I had everything set up for him, and I was very thoughtful and kind after all of that 5 years of what he did, because I was just trying to look at the bigger picture. But, he still couldn't handle it, Personally, I think his wife at the time couldn't handle it even more than him, because they just had like these 3 little Yorkies, and she was a stay-at-home I can't call mommy, doggy, whatever. She just stayed at home all day with her little puppies, and he worked and took care of the bills. They didn't have any children there. And I think the kids being there while he was at work was really cramping her soap opera, lifestyle. And she was like, oh, hell to the no. I got to cook all these 4 kids now. That's a night and day twist and turn. Laundry every other day, probably. Like, her lifestyle got flipped up. Oh, the whole month of August. Oh, no. And then on top of that, my kids are a reminder to her. She had to wait a whole decade to get him back, because he dated her before he got with me. And once he got with me, he never went back to her, at least not for the primary. If he dibbled and dabbled behind my back, I don't know to this day, really. I can surely assume it at the end of the relationship. But, those kids were a reminder to her of A, the kids that she miscarried by him and never could have again, and B, of a whole marriage that she had to wait to get him back to be the primary source again. So I'm pretty sure that she probably played a role in that as well. But shame on him for letting her have that authority, But the whole moral of this little story time here is just, getting into how they will use that silent treatment. You don't do something that they want, and they know that you care about having the child have a relationship with you. Okay, well, I'm going to hit her where it hurts. Okay, I'm going to keep myself from the kid. They take it out on the children, whatever way they can get back at you. If they know you care about that relationship, or your child is going to be hurt by it, therefore hurting you, that's what they're going to do. It's horrible. It's very horrible. It's an emotional abuse to the child, of course, and everyone. But this is what they do, guys. So you just have to be prepared for that. And, what did I do? I just talked to my children. I said, your dad is not in a good place. We can pray for him, and maybe one day that will change. But in the meanwhile, it is what it is, and we have to, keep moving on with our life. I'm here. I love you. I'm going to do everything that I can for you. We can't make him do things that he don't want. We definitely don't want to put people in those type of situations. So, and they knew, children know, they know it's something wrong with that parent. They actually knew. They was like, well, Dad, my daughter was telling me, she was like, I didn't really feel that comfortable around them. I could tell, like, I wasn't telling her these things. This is what they were telling me. They could feel that vibe, that nervous energy around him as well. Children know, they know that narcissistic parent ain't right. They still got love for him, but they know he ain't all the way there. All right, guys. So, we can't control other people. We can't. And people ask me, what if he called tomorrow to see the kids? Would you cooperate? Yeah, I would, actually. I would. As long as if I felt like he was going to harm them, of course not. But if he calls me and say he wants to see them, I would. We've been getting the child support every week on the dot. That's how we know he's still alive, quite frankly. But, there's been some situations. We have actually gone to his doorstep before. He wouldn't open the door. He didn't come out. We knew his car was right there. He was home and he did not answer for his children. I didn't go to the door. I let them go, And then we just stopped. I said, you won. One day I sent him a text message after looking at all the threads. Me contacted him for emergencies, and then I just stopped. I would just contact him on birthdays. Hey, the day before such and such's birthday tomorrow, like he didn't know. Can you give him a call? They would really love to hear from you. Birthday coming, going, no call. So I stopped. One day I just said, you won. You won. I will never contact you again about the children. It wasn't like I was hostile to him or mean or arguing or anything. These were just gentle text messages here and there. Jada's birthday is tomorrow. Can you please call her? She would love to hear from you. That's it. Or, hey, I'm about to do back to school shopping. If you want to add something to the pot, or if you want to pick up such and such, let me know. These are the kind of messages he would get. No reply. But of course, if he didn't reply back to those emergencies, why would he reply back to those? He's made up his mind, and it is what it is. And that's why I just got to keep doing what I'm doing, guys. But I'm going to go ahead and end this story time. But narcissists, they not only use it against you in your romantic relationship, and, it could be a parent narcissist, your parent, cousin, whoever, a friend that's a narcissist, they'll withhold from you what they think you want. If it's time, if it's conversation, if it's affection, they're going to withhold it from you. And then when there's children involved, they know, okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to see my kid. I know that's going to bother her and get under her skin. Or the female narcissist, because they're out here as well. They usually will have custody of the child. So then, I'm going to make it hard for him to see his kid. Oh, he's going to go through hell and high water. And then you go show up at her doorstep acting deranged. And then you going to end up with a case, and the cops, and then you got a case on you. They find a way. They will find a way. But, they will use that silent treatment. You know why? Because that's the worst thing that can happen to them in most cases. They want to be acknowledged. They want to be seen and heard, right? They need supply. And silent treatment and not acknowledging them, that's the opposite of giving them a supply. So, they'll assume other people operate that way too. But they could dish that, but they can't take it. Let them want to get in contact with you and you don't. You will get 1,000 missed calls. And what? Are you kidding me? Oh, and if they'll show up at your doorstep if they know where you live. What? Don't you dare try to ignore them. If they text you, they want to reply back in 1 second. But they were busy. I'll get back to you in a few hours. But no, everything for them you better know it's urgent, right? Oh my gosh, I'm telling you. But I'm going to go ahead and end that, guys. Just, be careful and watch out for that silent treatment. Just prepare yourself for that mentally and emotionally. Okay, guys? Take care.